Hey, listeners, and welcome to the You Are Epic podcast. This is where we honour the people who've helped build not just our industry, but our communities. I'm Angela Hucker, and I am so glad that you're here. So, I'm taking the time to sit down with people who've been in construction for years, people who've been through the ups, the downs, and everything in between. You're going to hear real stories of resilience, growth, and moments that shaped who they are. This podcast is for those that want to learn more from people who've been walking this path for some time, and they're helping to lift up others and quietly making a difference along the way. It's also to show you that your journey matters and your voice matters. And in case you've forgotten, you are epic. Let's get into it. So today's guest is Paisley Flinn, a people first leader with a strong foundation in construction and a passion for empowering teams. With deep expertise in emotional intelligence, operations, and relationship building, Paisley has spent her career driving performance through connection and trust. She holds a diploma in leadership and management with a focus on emotional intelligence and brings a really grounded, values-led approach to building resilient, high-performing teams across the industry. Thank you for joining us, Paisley. It's lovely to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So what we might do to start with is just find out about how did you get into this industry? Because I'm always curious how people get in, how long you've been in it, and what is your current role now? What are you actually doing now?
Okay. Well, I joined the industry in 2001, starting at Metricon Homes. How I fell into, I literally fell into it. I, uh, I was in the digital photography industry. I was working for a large format print media company, which was amazing and lots of fun. And a friend of mine, I was renovating a house, and I was getting a little bit bored with doing that. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, listen, there's a position at Metricon." And I said, "I don't really know what Metricon is." And he said, it's a builder. It's one of the biggest builders in Victoria." And I said, "Oh, okay, sure." And he said, "Come along, join the construction team in the office and go from there." And literally that launched my career. I knew nothing of the construction industry per se. I knew how to use a nail gun because I was renovating.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that now, but I
No.
could do that then. And it was a lovely group of people. It sort of, in my mind, I was thinking, oh gosh, it's going to be this, boys club and really scary, and what can I do and what can I bring to this industry and this job? Like, I can talk to people, and I've always had a good way of building relationships with people, but what could I do in this industry? And I ended up with a fantastic group of women who were all project coordinators, or home coordinators, we used to call ourselves, and we looked after a portfolio of different clients. So my first day at Metricon was walking into this back office to meet the building manager, who called me Tracy for the first couple of days.
Okay.
Didn't hear my name, Paisley.
Paisley, Tracy.
Tracy,
Okay.
that's
Yes.
right. Called me Tracy, and talked about it was really important to have a very good rapport with people. And that's
Report.
Port, yes. He ended up being one of my best mentors, so we'll go down that path a
Okay.
little later. But yes. So yeah, my first day was sitting in this little tiny office with a group of other home coordinators who had been in the business for 5, 6, 7 years, and they took me under their wing and they showed me the ropes. And it was just at the time that the first homeowners grant had come through and was starting to hit the construction stages.
Yeah.
And so the girl that I was taking over from had this gorgeous little portfolio of about 30 clients. And when I started, I had 120. So here's me going in,
Oh my
never been,
gosh.
never been in the industry before,
Oh wow.
with a portfolio of 120 clients. So it was
Wow.
sink or swim. But it was great because like I said, I had the other four girls around me who were just magnificent. And two of them I still hear from today, and they're still in the industry, sort of battling around. But it was, yeah, it was an eye opener. But
Wow.
certainly debunked a lot of the theories around how blokey, I guess, the industry is, and that was in 2001. And it's really just it's come a long
Mm.
way since there. But the supervisors were lovely because I was dealing with them on a weekly basis, and they would sit and teach me what a fascia and gutter was, and the process of building the home. And don't get me wrong, I can't go out there and build a home, but and it's
Yeah.
muscle memory, and it's been a while now since I've done that. But they were so lovely and so accommodating for my entry level. But yeah, it was, and I knew I was hooked at that stage. It was great. And so I just threw myself into understanding the whys and the hows and the where do I find that information and who do I talk to about that. And there were different departments in Metricon. There was a colour department, and then there was a town living department. So that was all
Oh, wow.
townhomes, which kind of leads into what I do now. So it's just this web of amazingness that, I think it's the thought of people saying the construction industry is just about being on site. Spend 5 minutes in an office. It's a
Yeah.
web of stuff.
Yes. And
Yeah.
exactly like what you've said with this part, like this is a big part, especially in the sector that you work in within the industry. Like this is a big part of it. You're in the industry, but you're not necessarily feet on the ground. But
No,
without this, you actually don't have that part of the feet on the ground because you need all this first. It's part of that support system.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what is it that you're actually doing now? What's your role?
So now I'm the operations manager of Siena Homes, and we're a medium density townhome builder out in the southeast, sorry, in the northwest. So I look after a team of draftees, estimators, and customer service. My role, we're a medium sized company, so my role is a little bit diverse. I also look after IT and HR, so it's
Yes.
operations to its absolute maximum. But it's surrounded by really fantastic people. I represent the leadership team, and there are many women on our leadership team. In fact, we're 50-50, which is fantastic. And that's nice to see. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about when I was going to talk to you was, how, because obviously we met, a few months back now, isn't it? But
Yeah.
about how women have sort of progressed in the industry, and the two heads of both HIA and master builders in Victoria are women. I'm not sure whether that would have happened in 2001, but it's certainly nice to see that now. And in fact, their exec leadership team in both of those businesses are 50-50 men and women. So
Okay.
we really are coming a long way in that world, which is
Which
good.
is great.
Mm.
And I think, something that's really, I know with what you touched on there about the support that you got from your supervisors and them being able to tell you what the fascias and the gutters and all that sort of stuff is as well. With that kind of support that you've had, how important do you think that is for, people coming into the industry as well, to be able to have that support with passing on that knowledge and that knowledge sharing essentially?
Oh, it's imperative. It's the only way that anybody in a new role is going to succeed
Mm.
anyway. I mean, whether it's men or women, but women often, I don't want to call us the fairer race, but
Yeah.
sometimes we are. It's we even now, my generation, and I'm 54. We were brought up a little bit, not definitely not to be seen and not heard, but just to be always demure and polite, and allow somebody else to go first and don't speak too loud. And my daughter, I look at where she's going to go, and I'm empowering her to speak her mind and be brave and be powerful, and ask for what you want and expect it, within reason. But
Yes.
and so looking forward to that generation when she starts working, and that is sort of in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that she's going to be able to sit down with supervisors and just say, tell me about the job, and they just had this conversation. I mean, that is what I had back in 2001, which was lovely.
Mm.
But I think it is becoming more prevalent now. Certainly in the building company that I'm working for now, that happens. So we have supervisors come in on a fortnightly basis, and they
Okay.
sit with our customer service team and have conversations with them. There's no barrier with regard to communication. There's no, oh, I shouldn't speak to this person, or they're a bit grumpy, or I need to, not, there's certain men that I can't talk to. In my experience, it just doesn't happen. But I know that there is some issues that are out there. Actually, in saying that, yesterday was an interesting situation. One of my staff was in a meeting with all of the men, and there was a building manager and a drafting manager and couple of supervisors and a construction manager, and individually they're all fantastic people, but she ended up feeling quite overwhelmed and asked me to come into that meeting. And of course, she said, "Oh, as soon as you turned up to that meeting, they were all fantastic." But it's still having somebody have your back and
Mm.
having that protection. And I guess the men understanding that sometimes their big booming voices are a little bit scary, and I don't think that they mean to be, but they are. So it's just I would like the men to understand a little bit, yeah, of how they come across sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's my job as well of having that feedback with those particular managers in the business, and and they both sort of in that situation turned around and went, oh gosh, we didn't realize how we were coming across. So that's also important. So it's not just going back. I know it seems like we're going around in circles, but going back to your original conversation about supervisors and sitting down with people and empowering sharing the information, it's also being okay to have that conversation of feedback. Your voice was a bit intimidating to me today, and I didn't like the
Yeah.
way that you spoke to me, and the other person being okay with that. So I think the generation coming through now, I think, will be a lot braver, if that's the right word,
Yeah.
than we are.
I agree because, as you said, like coming from the 70s, late 60s, 70s and stuff,
Yeah,
like we were always, I'm early 70s myself, so it's you're
yeah,
always, you're a bit more quieter and a bit more demure, and there was a level of hierarchy, I guess you could say.
it's true.
And especially with the roles that we did, is that we were more in the admin roles, and we weren't actually, the supervisors, so to speak. We were the support for the supervisors.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it is that shift that's coming through now, certainly with the next generation, that I think they certainly do have a bit more like what you're doing with your daughter. You're empowering her to be able to speak up and
Mm.
everything like that. And I think, you and I have probably got to the age now where we do
Yeah.
that as well, but it's taken a long time to get
But
there.
it
So,
has. Oh,
um,
do you know what? Absolutely. And one of the things I was thinking about when we were talking earlier about talking to you about this is imposter syndrome is massive. I
yeah,
spent, I started when I was 30, and probably for a good 10 years of the industry, I had imposter syndrome.
yeah,
Uh, I wasn't good enough. My ideas, were they going to fly? I
mm,
can't say that because I'm just going to get shot down. Or there's an error in that reporting, but gosh, I'm not going to say anything because it's my boss that's put it together.
mm,
Now I just call it. But
yeah,
I'm big and brave to do that. But it's just it is an awful feeling sitting in a
yes,
meeting thinking, I know the answer to this, or I know a better way of doing this, and I have a raft of people who I'm thinking, I can't say that, or I shouldn't say that, or what if they think, or, all these worries. But now, yeah. So being brave and being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
mm, yeah,
and everybody has a voice and everybody has an opinion, and no suggestion is the wrong suggestion. It's right for that time. And
mm,
just because your suggestion might get quashed then, it doesn't mean that it's not going to get used later on down the track. So I really empower anybody in that situation. Like if I was talking to my old self, I would
yeah.
say, go on, say it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
They're going to laugh at you. And if they do, well, so.
And I think that's awesome advice because there is a lot of people out there, there is that fear of, retaliation or retribution or that, and there is that element of imposter syndrome that comes into it as well, that, they know that, they've got an idea that might be of value, but it's having that confidence to be able to present it as well in a forum. And especially when you're a minority, it makes it a little bit more overwhelming as well. So,
Yeah. And sometimes there are different ways of doing it. Like it mightn't be, you know, often that sort of stuff is learnt behavior, like we've talked about. We learnt it growing up. Kids learn it in school because kids can be cruel.
yeah,
Um,
yes.
and then when you become an adult and you have to go out and do adulting, there are people in the industry that have never grown up, and so you're dealing with those people
I
and
know.
having to, stand up to them. So, whether it's being brave enough to say something in a meeting or being brave enough to say something to your supervisor or your manager or a team leader or a colleague to say, hey, listen, I reckon I've got this really good idea that we could do this better and it's going to streamline and I reckon it's going to save me an hour in my work a day,
Mm,
which
mm.
means I can concentrate on something else. What do you reckon? And then sort of work through the system that way. And eventually your idea gets out. And, I think that that's maybe a softer journey for some people.
Yeah, no, and look, I agree. And I think exactly how you framed it there with saying what the idea is and what the potential benefit might be, because it makes someone realize, because innovation, I mean, we're all for trying to innovate and simplify and be more efficient and be more productive and, all of these sorts of things as well. But we've got to be open to trying new ideas as well and giving people the safe space to be able to put them forward. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm really grateful that, your report actually had you to lean on and felt safe that she could come to you in that meeting and say, hey, could you come and support me with this? Because I think that's something that's really vital and not always available to people as well. So, with what you do with managing people as an operations manager, what sort of qualities and traits can people exemplify to be able to make sure that they are creating those safe spaces for people, that they are comfortable to come and say, hey, look, I'm not comfortable in this situation. Can you please provide me with some support, or can I talk to you about this? Something that other people might learn from what you're already doing.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always done as a manager and been quite proud of is being authentic. I don't
Mm.
always get it right. I make mistakes like all of my staff,
Yes.
but I'm open about it. And sometimes I don't have good days. And I'm not going to go and divulge all of my information to my colleagues and my staff. But we're human, right? So
Exactly.
you are human and you turn up to do a job, but it doesn't stop you being human. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people talk about work-life balance. It's just life.
Mm.
There is no work-life balance. It's just
Mm.
I'm Paisley at work and I'm Paisley at home, and I'm generally the same demeanor of person. I
Mm.
just do different tasks.
Mm.
And so I encourage my staff to be open as much as they want to be. Sometimes they can't be, but as much as they want to be.
Mm.
I always have time for them. I'm fair. I set clear boundaries. I set clear expectations, and I'm always happy to help them. So I've always said to new staff and staff that have been there for a long time, always ask me questions. I mean, you're laughing, but my phone is going berserk because I've got staff asking questions. They know I'm in this meeting, but but I'm available for them. It's being present and being authentic for your staff. And then it means that you have a good relationship with them. And sometimes you're going to have to say things that, you're going to have to be the parent, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
and step up and have the hard conversation. But the hard conversations are a whole lot easier when you have the relationship and you have the trust. There's not a single staff member that I have in my clutch at the moment that I don't trust and that doesn't trust me. And that's, and yesterday was an example of that. She was
Mm.
brave enough to stand up in the meeting and say, I need to leave for a minute because I need some support, and know that I would come in and drop what
Yeah.
I was doing to be with her. And all it took was me to sit there. It was nothing massive. It was just me sitting there, and she knew, okay, Paige has got my back.
I think that's a really key word, is the trust, because I don't always see that the trust is foundational with leadership, or certainly within the industry, that it's more coming from a different place. And, how do you actually build that trust?
Like I said, it's being vulnerable in front of your staff and in front of your people. I mean, I've had managers who I don't trust,
Hmm.
and I've had managers and been in situations where I've needed them and I thought that they had my back and then was thrown under the bus. So, and that's an awful feeling. And
Oh,
so that's something that I
yeah.
never, ever, ever want anybody that I'm responsible for
Yeah.
to feel. And so I've made it my life goal for nobody in my world to ever feel
Yeah.
like that under my leadership. Talked for everybody else, but yeah, it's that trust is super important. It's a bond. You are asked to do a job, and yes, it's a
Mm.
job, but if you're spending 8 hours with somebody a day,
Mm.
it's more than a job.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you're with them more than your own family. That's the thing.
that's right. We
Like the
speak to
reality.
them. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Trust and honesty, being
Yeah.
honest with your people. Am I doing a good job? Well, yesterday you did, but today you're not. And
Yeah.
why aren't I? Well, today you're not doing a good job because of X, Y, Z, or are you having some challenges? Let's sort of dig down and work out where your challenges are, and maybe I can help unlock those challenges. And it might be sometimes in my past I've had it's been one misunderstanding of a role or one misunderstanding of a process, or it's been I actually really don't want to do this anymore.
Mm,
And that's okay.
mm,
I say to all my staff, you do this for a long time. You're going to be here 8 hours for the day. If you decide one morning you wake up and you say, you know what, it's just not for me, that's okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's talk through what that looks like, and
Yeah.
let's help outplace you or what what you're going to do. I mean, obviously, I have KPIs to meet, but at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. So it's again, that's also how I have built trust. I've been very open with people about it's okay if you don't want to do this job anymore.
Mm.
I've moved jobs. 'Cause-
Yeah, same. And I mean, it's actually giving him that comfort that, you acknowledge that this may not be a long-term thing as well. Like it may not be what sees you out to the retirement. And
Correct.
because especially now these days, like a lot of people are moving jobs continually as well,
Yeah,
but it's letting them know that, they're safe, they're okay, and there's not going to be any offense taken. And, that's just the way
absolutely not.
life goes, really, isn't it? So,
No, I remember sitting down with a staff member years and years and years ago, and she was a beautiful, beautiful soul, and she just wasn't sparkling anymore. And I sat down next to her and I said to her, I feel like you're not sparkling anymore. And she said, oh, can you see that? And I said, well, I can. And you've got such a beautiful heart. What is it that you really, really want to do? And she said, well, I love singing. And she wanted to go and sing. And she was heavily involved in the church, and she was heavily involved in the choir in the church. And so that's what she did. She actually left, moved countries. She's now written a book. She's got her own business. She's had two
wow.
beautiful children. She's got a beautiful husband, and she is shining. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just
Yeah.
it's it sounds terrible, but it's giving people permission to live their best life.
Yes, yes, I agree. And it's helping them unclip their wings and see the greatness they've got in
Yeah,
themselves as well.
it is. So part of my role, I mean, with my operations manager Hattie's, I've got KPIs and I've got, teams that I need to run and numbers that I need to meet and jobs that we need to send out to site. But a big part of my role is that mentor counseling piece, I guess.
Yeah.
It's that being that good human to my staff.
So have you had without breaching any confidentiality, of course, have you had a tricky situation that you've had to navigate as a leader with a staff member or a team or something like that? And what did that kind of teach you about yourself with your leadership?
Yeah, look, I had a situation where I had a staff member. It was a personal issue for her, but it was affecting the rest of the team.
Hmm.
And that was a really, really tricky situation to be in. And
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to handle it at the time. I was a relatively young manager, and I remember speaking to my dad, who's been a CEO forever. He's retired now.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got this situation, Dad. What do I do? And he said, just be really vulnerable, be awkward. Let her feel how awkward you feel about this. And
Mm,
so I did. And I sat down with her and I had the conversation. And I started off by saying, I really don't know how to start this conversation. And I feel really uncomfortable about bringing this topic up with you. And so just please, I apologize in advance of how clunky this is probably going to be.
mm.
And she said, don't worry about it. She said, I know exactly what you're going to ask me. I'm already across it and I'll sort it. And part of me went, oh, thank
Oh,
goodness
thank
me.
God.
Wow,
Oh,
that's re-
that
that was
saves
really
some awkwardness.
that was really, really great. And the other part of me said, do you know what? I smashed the way I handled that. So when I've ever had those really difficult conversations again, I do. It is a difficult situation, and I'm
Mm,
just really verbal about that. Hi, I'm going to have a conversation with you, and I've really been deliberating about how I bring this up, and I'm not sure. So stick with me while I sort of fumble my way through this conversation with you. And
yeah,
most people go, oh, and that it takes them off the defense,
yeah,
and it shows that I'm I'm not the scary manager that's perfect. I'm 100% imperfect, and it diffuses the conversation. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I have learnt in my career. Uh,
Mm,
Another one that I was given a piece of advice by a wonderful town planner that I used to work with through Metricon. And he said to me, he had his own business, and he said to me, once you understand that your people are your greatest asset, everything just
yeah,
everything just works.
yeah.
And and it does. People first. If you have, and I literally had this conversation with somebody last week. I said, if you put your people first, they will walk over broken glass for you.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that most of I can't think of anyone on my team that wouldn't. I treat them how I like to be treated.
Absolutely. And I think that is absolute key because it's not something that is common in
No,
this industry.
no. I've come from, in my past history of some of my builders, I've come from, well, if you can't do it, I'll get someone else who can.
Yes,
And it's not the fact that you can't do it or won't do it. It's just that might need a little bit more support, or there are some things that are missing from the puzzle.
yes, yes.
But it was very cutthroat, and I don't, and that becomes a fear factor. And
Mm,
therefore, if you are working with people who are fearful, or if you are fearful yourself, then you don't do a good job. You know,
yep, exactly.
Again, I go back to my comment, we're all human.
Yeah, we are. We are. And I love with what you said about how you approach these difficult situations and, this trust and everything that comes into play. Like you're always coming from a place that's instantly diffusing. It's not
Yes.
adversarial.
No.
It's not coming from a place of fear. It's actually you're leaning into your authenticity as well to say, hey, this is making me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But you're still taking the courage to speak up and acknowledge it and call it out. You're still maintaining that standard as
Yes.
well that I
Yes.
see. And I think, I mean, there's so much to be, you should be teaching leadership, honestly. So because these are a lot of the missing elements that are in the industry about the authenticity, the trust, the courage, the accountability, the standards, the values.
The
Like this is
vulnerability.
something that the industry needs.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think we're getting there. I really think we are. I mean, I look at the managers that I have around me at the moment, and for the most part, possibly not to the level I do, but for the most part, they probably do. I have worked with managers in my career that have, and I've learnt from them. There are still a lot of managers, and there are still a lot of business owners that don't. And whilst I understand that there's different pressures, and people cope with different pressures in different ways. I go back to people are your greatest assets. And I guess that
Oh yeah.
the important part is if you look after your people, the pressure goes away.
Yeah. Well, Richard Branson said it exactly that way. You put your people first, and your people will look after your business. So, and that's exactly what you're doing is, you put the people first and they'll, like you said, they'll walk over broken glass for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And occasionally you'll get disappointed because there's somebody that's, didn't quite make it or didn't understand and I sort of look at that and I think, well, is that something that I didn't explain properly or is that just that person? You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's a reflection that I need to go back and have a look and say, actually, did I give you all the information that you needed to succeed in that position?
Mm.
Yes, no, or did I and you just weren't cut out for it, or you didn't want to come to the party because
Yeah.
again, you can only bring people so far.
That's it. That's it. But no, what you're doing is I just love what you're doing. You
Thank you.
absolutely should be teaching leadership because you're actually the epitome of, what leadership is about. So thank you
You're welcome.
for I'm sure your people really appreciate the leader that you are for them as well. So thank you for doing your bit to help create a culture in your work environment that's supportive for your people.
I enjoy people. I enjoy
Yeah.
different types of people. So yeah, it is easier, I guess, for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I can see because it just you light up. Like this is something that actually just helps make you sparkle. So,
Yes.
yeah.
It does.
So what I'd love to ask you, if there is one thing that you could change about the industry to make it more welcoming for women, what would it be and why?
Hmm. I would like I would like to start at the start. I would like for there to be more education and exposure for women or for girls at school to understand what the construction industry is about. Like we
Mm.
touched on earlier in our conversation, my first day was in the back office, and now I understand how much work goes on in the back office.
Yeah.
I really want to debunk the phobia or the theory or the nervousness or the understanding that the construction industry is all about what happens on site.
Yeah.
It is everything. It is marketing, it is HR, it is accounting, it is legal, it is research and development, it is engineering, and that's just the small part. And then there's the drafting and the estimating and the customer service and the color consultants and sales associates and all of that back end support staff
Mm.
is imperative for the people on site, whether they're women or men working on site. So the empowering part, I guess, for the women is understanding what they can do and understanding their strengths, and then understanding where to go for those strengths.
Mm.
Find a mentor. I had a mentor outside of the industry. He was somebody that I met through the industry, but he runs his own business, and I used to ring him occasionally and go, oh, where am I at?
Oh,
Yeah, I've just had this conference, and I feel like I'm really overwhelmed, and there's so much to do, and I'm having everything come at me all at once. What am I doing? And he would just go, Pace, just breathe.
breathe.
Actually don't have to do all this in the one go. So to bring more women into the industry, I think that I would like to see more exposure to the types of jobs that are in the industry. These podcasts are going to be amazing because it's with women talking about women talking about the construction industry. I think that this needs to happen more, that it's okay to have a bad day, that it's okay to feel like you're a bit overwhelmed. It's okay to
Mm.
feel uncomfortable. It's okay to go to your manager and say, I just don't understand what's going on.
Mm.
Can you help me? It's okay to have an idea and not raise it in the first meeting, but feel brave enough from some coaching to raise it in the second meeting. I
Yeah.
think that it's women being kind to women, but it's what's really also important is raising our boys of today to be good humans, and
Yeah.
raising our boys of today to understand that girls can do whatever boys can do, and that just because you might have a deeper voice than this girl over here, it doesn't mean that her idea is not okay.
Correct.
And I think that the generation, certainly of my daughter and coming through, I think that's getting better. I think, there's always the outliers that we hear about on the news,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Of
they will never
course.
go away. One of my girlfriends has got 3 boys and a daughter, and her absolute 100% goal is to ensure that her boys are raised to be good and kind people to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
So I think that our voice is getting out there more. I think that we went to the Women in Construction Summit. There were a few men there. I went to the Master Builders Women International Women's Breakfast. There were quite a few men there. I go to the HIA Women's Luncheons. There are men there. I think that the men that go there are an important piece to ensure that they spread that word to say, it's not a I'm going to sound terrible. It's not a hen fest. It's not,
Yeah.
women out there burning their bras and telling us that we have to do this, and it's all Jermaine Greer all over again. It's
Yeah.
not that. It's just we don't want to rule the world.
No.
We want to have a voice, and
Yes.
we want to have an equal seat at the table. And there's equity and equality, two very
Yes.
different things. So
Yes.
I think that, getting that out into schools and TAFE colleges and universities and just general public for, to allow women to make decisions about our construction industry and say it's okay, it's a safe place, it's where you can learn and develop. Gosh, I honestly never thought that I would be where I was back when I was leaving school.
I know.
When I was leaving school, I worked for a stockbroker, and I was just going for
Right.
those, yep, just going for those menial jobs, with all due respect, those menial jobs that I,
Yeah.
didn't necessarily need a qualification on, or that I could easily do, or that I could fly under the radar. And I hit the construction industry and went, wow,
Wow.
what can't I do?
Yeah.
If I really wanted to be, I don't want to be a supervisor, but I guess if I wanted to be a supervisor, I could do that. I would have people support me to do that.
Yeah.
I would go and do some education, and I would have enough people around that I could, spend some time on site. I did wear a pair of red heels on site once, which I didn't realize I was going to site at the time. But so, I've been to site, but
Yeah.
it's such an amazing industry.
Oh,
It's the opportunities are endless. It really
yeah.
is. I really would like to debunk that nervousness about women getting into the industry.
And I think what you touched on as part of what you just said is really valuable because there's a lot of focus to get more women into trades, but there's all these other roles that aren't promoted. And it's like, well, hang on, if we can start saying about that, there is your estimating and your procurement and your color and your sales people and your drafts people and this and that and the other. Like it actually shows people that there is actually a role for everyone and suited
Career
to
path.
everyone's skills. So
Absolutely.
but they need to know what's available. And I think this is a big missing piece at the moment because it's focusing on one aspect, which is tradespeople, but not
Correct.
actually going, well, we need all of this as well. So with what you're doing in your role at the moment, before you actually get to the point of building your houses and your townhouses and all that sort of stuff, do you know the number of different people who are required to get something to the point where they can then get a shovel in the ground and start construction because there's a whole suite of people before that. And
There
I'd
is.
love to know how many roles there are before that.
Well, there's a sales consultant.
Yeah.
There is a drafty.
Yeah.
There is a designer. There is marketing. There is customer service. There is estimating. There is our finance team. That's all before it even starts to talk about any of the building team.
And then you've got the stuff to get all your approvals, your council approvals, your
That's
building
right. And then,
approvals.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Then
Yeah.
there's the registered building surveyors, there's the engineers, there's the surveying team, there is our energy raters. This is all in the office before, well, they're external people for us, but these are all the people before it hits our construction team. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a raft of people.
Because I
Even
heard the number was about 30. There's
quite
um
possibly, yeah.
30 different roles
Touch points.
involved to actually get before a building is actually even started. So
That's quite possibly right. It's probably not quite 30 in my actually company, but
yeah,
yes, there's
yeah,
certainly a lot of touch points. Absolutely.
yeah.
And
Lots of touch points.
we even sit and deliberate. There's six of us that sit and deliberate about what designs we do, even before it gets to
Mm.
going to market. So
But just even with you as an operations manager and you're overseeing HR and you're overseeing IT,
yes,
you're overseeing drafts people and like that's a role as well. So
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
And like the IT, because the IT supports everything because you're
it
using
does.
products that is, creating the designs as well. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And then we've got our accounting system, well, our estimating system. So there's all of that as well, the systems.
yeah,
Yeah, there is a lot of touch points before you start building.
yeah, absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely.
that, yeah, it'd be nice to see that promoted a little bit better, I guess.
Mm,
Because we do, I was having a look at a couple of websites over the last couple of weeks, and there is a lot of work for women in construction. There's a couple of women's only recruitment companies. The Victorian government is doing a lot of work to promote and glean women to get into the industry, but it is very much geared towards site. Yeah, and that's required. And that's a big part of it because that's what everyone sees. Uh,
correct.
but there's so much. It's really like an iceberg.
It is. It really
It
is.
really is like an iceberg.
Yeah. And it's, like I've worked on the corporate side as well in the office and I've done site-based and the fly in, fly out. And I have seen it from all sides. And it's like the amount of people who are behind the scenes, essentially managing, everything to get that happening. There's a
Yeah,
multitude and we need to be able to promote those roles as well and show people that they're available to be able to work in construction as well. So
yeah, yeah.
how could we, because you touched on about, teaching our males to be, good humans as well, because I'm all for just be a good human.
Just
Like
yeah, yeah,
it's a big tagline of mine, be a good human.
yeah. It's not a big
What,
ask.
yeah, I know it's not a big ask. What do you think we could do to help bring the males on the journey with this as well?
Look, I think it's again, it's just talking about it. There are more women in different positions now, which is great. There are women in executive positions now, so
Yeah,
women have, it's not about standing on top of the men to get where you need to go, but it's showing the guys that women are also entitled to be in those positions. The people that we talk to at work, we just talk to them like regular people, but it's sometimes when
Yeah.
their natural ability is to sort of overtalk a woman. Sometimes we've got a couple of those. It's just like, hey, hang on, we all have a point to make.
Yeah.
It's consistently reminding. It's no, it's going to sound terrible, and I don't mean this to be demeaning in any stretch of the imagination,
Mm.
but it's no different to bringing a child up or, training. This is going to sound terrible, and I don't, like I said, I don't mean to say it, but training an animal, it's the time that you put in.
Yeah.
It's the time that you put in, it's the consistency, and it's showing up. And I go back to being vulnerable. Being vulnerable is where you're going to lie on your back and show your belly, and being okay with that. And it's showing that the
Mm.
guys are okay with that, and then showing when a couple of the guys are like that, showing their mates that that's okay, and
Mm.
you can get through. I guess I've been relatively fortunate. I've only come across a handful of men in my career that, in my most diplomatic way of saying this, I don't know if I would ever need to meet them again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I feel sorry for them because they will move through their career based on just being bullies and, just force their way through. Thank goodness that they are the absolute minority in my experience.
Mm.
I know that there's lots of not, but in my, if we're just talking about the journey, the career that I've had, but I know that other men have called them out as well. And so
Mm.
that's empowering. Yeah, look, I think, as far as, going back to your original question, how do we bring these men with us? Humility, I guess, humility, vulnerability, and just and keeping the conversation going without being over the top about it. It's important that we don't swing the other way. I
Mm.
know it's been about the men for a long time, and we are starting to, the women are starting to make inroads, and
Yeah.
really, really good, strong inroads, but we don't want to swing it the other way where we're man bashing, you know,
No, 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 no,
um,
no.
ensuring that they feel that it's not man bashing as well. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't
I
think,
think
I think it's a good balance.
I think one of the key points that you said, it's about that just calling it out, but doing it in a way that's respectful because
Correct.
you don't know what you don't know. And if you've never been actually called out for speaking a certain way or saying things a certain way, it just becomes second nature for you. But when you can actually, break that with someone and say, hey, look, that actually wasn't cool. Would you mind not doing that? Like, it actually jolts something in their system where it's like, oh, no one's actually ever said that to me before. So,
Correct. Yeah. And this situation that happened yesterday, um, one of the men actually went and spoke to my staff member and said, "Listen, I'm really sorry. I didn't. This wasn't my intention."
yeah,
And it was just understanding. Yeah, he was quite horrified when I brought it up with him because that's not how
yeah,
he saw it. And I said, "But
correct.
you're not seeing it from her perspective, which is understandable. But
Yeah,
you're not seeing it
yeah.
from her perspective. But I'm now letting you know." And he was, yeah, wanted to immediately fix it. So go him.
But it was also highlighting it and making them consciously aware of it because they do it subconsciously.
Yeah,
We all
I think
behave
we all do
certain
sometimes.
ways subconsciously, like, and until someone actually says something, you don't know. So,
That's right.
and
That's
I
right.
think this is part of what is actually going to help affect really positive change in the industry. And it's not to be disrespectful or rude or, combative or aggressive or anything like that. It's like, hey, do you realize that was actually, like a little bit overwhelming the way that your voice was? So,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. But yeah, like I said, I think the generation, like my daughter's 15, so I think that generation coming through when she's entering the workforce, um, and she at one stage was looking at drafting, so I'd really love her to
Oh,
to join the
nice.
industry.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Um, I think that she will be able to speak to the boys or speak to the men or speak to over empowering women. I mean, there are those in the industry as well who sometimes, you need to sit down and say, hey, listen, I felt that what you were saying was a bit harsh, or I felt that your tone was a bit much, or, I didn't
Mm.
understand. I mean, for me personally, one of my shortcomings is I'm deaf on my left side. And
Oh,
so sometimes I don't hear things, and sometimes there can be misunderstood. And so it's just a matter of saying, hey, listen, it's all about clear communication. And I didn't understand what you were saying, or you don't need to yell at me. I can
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear, but not all that well. So just make sure that I can hear what you're saying. Communication is the key.
Oh, it's a big part. Not only is it the key, but it's how it's done, how it's delivered.
True. Very true. Very
Because
true.
sometimes the delivery is not done in the best way.
No. But sometimes I think sometimes in that case, in that situation, I mean, you may have been in this as well, but sometimes in that situation, the delivery is often fear-based. If the delivery is not palatable or not friendly or not
Mm,
appropriate, in my past, I've found that if you dig to the bottom of it, sometimes it's a fear-based, well, I'm going to get in trouble by my boss if I don't get it, so you're in trouble because you didn't get it. Well,
yeah,
hang on. Let's all work out what the problem is
yeah,
and let's diffuse the situation, and then I'll work it back up the chain. So, it's that stick and master sort of stuff, which is, thank goodness it is bleeding out.
yeah. But it's always getting, all right, because that's how I operate as well. Let's get to the root cause. What's actually driving this?
Yeah,
What's causing this to happen? Where is this coming from? Because what's actually coming out isn't what's actually going on inside generally. So
correct.
that's
That's
just
right.
what's being projected of what is actually inside. So,
Absolutely. And that comes full circle to, being that trustworthy manager,
mm,
being that person that people can lean on, being that support, being that communication vehicle that you can understand, that you feel comfortable saying whatever you need to say to, I really didn't understand that task that you were asking me to do, and therefore I've made a mistake. How can I fix this? How, can you help me fix this so I don't make this mistake in the next time round?
we need more of it.
Absolutely.
When you look back on your career and what you've done, and obviously being thrown into the coals at Metricon and 130 plus clients to deal with, and that's a lot to deal with and take on board as a new person, never working in the industry. When you think about from that moment to where you are now, what's one thing that you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of being a people leader.
Love it.
My light bulb moments are their light bulb moments. Nothing gets me happier and sparks my joy than someone that says, I got there with your help, or, I now get it. I've hired a couple of people in my career or one that has started his own building company. It was interesting. It wasn't a woman, unfortunately, but it was
Yeah.
somebody, the stereotypical, I hired this guy in a customer service role, and my three managers, who were the owners of the business, said, why would you want to hire him? It's a woman's job. And I said, well, because he's the best person for the job.
Mm,
Yeah, no, 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 it's a woman's job. And I said, well, I'm the operations manager and you're empowering me to make decisions. So this is who's going, this is who I'm
yeah.
putting in my team.
Yeah.
Now he was amazing. He went off and did, worked through departments, and now he's running a very successful business. So giving people the opportunity to be the best people that they can in the industry that they love in a
Mm,
safe environment
mm,
has been the best gift I've had in the industry. And,
mm,
and I've seen it time and time again, people enjoy what they do. And if they don't, they have that out. Hey,
mm.
Pays, I'm going to resign because I don't really want to do what I'm doing here anymore. I don't want to do what I'm doing here anymore for these reasons, or I don't want to be in the industry anymore. And
Yeah.
it's about allowing people to, to be the best they can. And that's the best gift that I've had in the 24 years that I've been
Yeah.
from the day of turning up in the car park of thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Like an oh shit moment.
Absolutely. To
Mm.
running countless teams and enjoying every single person.
Well, I think that's actually a credit to you, Paisley, with who you are as a person and how you lead and your leadership style and what you bring to the table as well, because you're coming from a place that isn't often seen. There's a lot of leadership styles out there, and the leadership style that you're bringing to the table is what's actually enabling that to happen. So that is a credit to you. So thank you for being that type of leader
Thank you.
because you're making a huge impact, no doubt, and difference to the people who you're leading. So, and I'm sure they are grateful and they appreciate you and, the support that you give them to sparkle, like you said. So,
Well, it's a 360 degrees, so
Yeah.
I enjoy them too. So
But I just want to recognize
thank
you
you,
because I think that's an absolute credit to you with who you are as a person and as a leader. So
thank you.
now, in closing, what I'd love to hear is if there was one bit of knowledge, a Paisley advice that you could pass on to anyone listening to this, whether that be a male or a female or a new person or someone who's been in the industry a long time, something that you've always gone, I just wish I could get this out to more people. What would that be?
I've always said to people, protect their brand.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is, I know we've talked a few times about being a good human, but it is really important. The industry is very small. One of the reasons I guess I've got where I've got, I was asked to do this job at Metricon. I worked my way through the business. I was asked to be a customer service manager. I was pulled out of another department to do that. It's because I protected my brand. I was always authentic and did the best I could to my ability at whatever time that was in my career. So it's about, working within your limits, being visible for opportunities,
yeah.
but in saying that, protect your brand. Like don't be that person that snipes behind people's back. Don't be that person that undermines somebody. It does get found out, and it's just not the way to behave. So protecting your brand will ensure that you have good steps to take your career wherever you want to take your career. And it might be you might want a career in customer service, and that's fantastic because we need so many customer service people. And I take my hat off to the customer service team
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
it is a hard gig.
Yeah.
People are hard, but that's fantastic if you do that. Or if you want to head to management or exec leadership, protect your brand. It's what you can take with you. You can learn how to operate a system, you can learn how to draw, you can learn
Mm,
numbers, you can learn a process, but your brand is your brand. And
mm,
that's what you're going to take wherever you go. And
mm.
you want to ensure that that is a loyal, honorable, honest brand because no one can
Yeah.
fight that.
No, no. And I love that. Like, and it's your personal brand. It's not the company brand.
I
It's
know,
your personal brand. So it's who you are as a person,
correct.
uh, and being able to, have those qualities that you touched on, the authenticity, the courage, the clunkiness, like just being a good human as well. So.
Absolutely.
No, I absolutely love it. You're incredible, Paisley, and really grateful to have you on and share your wisdom and all the amazing things that you do as a leader as well. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing for the industry because you are making a difference.
Thank you.
And yes, really appreciate you. So thank you for taking the time to chat to us.
Thanks, Ange, and thank you for having me. This is such a great initiative, and I can't wait to see where this goes.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Let's see what happens from here. So
Yes, looking forward to it.
awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode today. I hope this conversation gave you something that you can take with you, whether it be a little bit of insight, inspiration, or maybe just a reminder that you're not alone. If it resonated with you, please share because we're better when we help build each other up. And remember that your experience, your story, and your journey, it all matters more than you know. Until next time, stay kind, stay connected, and never forget you are epic.